Welcome to Garage Branders, the podcast that dives into the world of omnichannel commerce and highlights the innovators and trailblazers behind the brands driving today's connected retail landscape. Support for Garage Branders is provided by Tandem Tide, a performance marketing and omnichannel commerce firm, helping brands thrive in today's digital marketplace. For more information, visit them at tandemtide.com.
All right, so let's kick things off here. So welcome, Gretchen. Julie's here too, and this is Garage Branders, and we talk to brand founders, and here we are today talking to Gretchen Julius. Do you go by Julius, or what do you like to be called?
So lately, it's been Julius Whitehead because I've had Julius for so long, but Whitehead is my official last name. So Gretchen Julius Whitehead.
So you hyphenate.
I hyphenate.
Yeah. Okay. All right, cool. So we're here today talking to you because you launched a jewelry brand, but you have a really cool story. You know, you started, give us kind of your origin story and kind of what led us to this conversation.
Yeah. So I took my very first jewelry course at the Toledo Art Museum back when I was in high school. So I always knew that I loved tinkering. Also, my father is an orthodontist, so I got to work in his labs, which had all sorts of tools and equipment.
Oh, yeah.
It just clicked. I just fell in love with all of this things of being able to manipulate.
Minus the teeth.
Minus the teeth, yes. I even had to do impressions. And that part was not fun because we all know that sometimes when you have impressions made, it's not great. But yeah, so I knew that I just loved to manipulate things. So fast forward, going to high school and being very much involved in the arts, I knew I wanted to go to art school. Of course, my parents were like, "Oh my God, don't go to art school. What's going to happen?
You're ruining your life."
Exactly.
Creative.
Like, how are you going to make a living going to art school? But I worked really hard and I was like, I'm going to apply to some of the really, really tough ones to get into. And I got into Rhode Island School of Design and I studied jewelry and light metals.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So, it all just sort of fell into place, but it took a lot of focus as far as really tapping into what I enjoyed and allowing myself to be okay with that, and not really following, I should become a doctor or even following my father's footsteps, which, I think I would have loved as well. But, going the route that's not the norm.
Right.
And just trusting myself to do it and working hard at that.
And if you have a creative itch, you have to scratch, like you kind of just don't have a choice, right?
Exactly. And I'm the youngest of three. My brother and sister are lawyers. So it was definitely a different track for me and my whole family. But it really proved to be the right one. And so it's hard. You have to just push through and be like, I could do this. And I'm going to keep trudging. So that's sort of where it started. But then should I continue going with the whole?
Yeah, I want to hear how you went from there to where you're at now.
So then so RISD, obviously, studying everything about jewelry and light metals and architecture and printmaking and all the things, I got a apprenticeship as a goldsmith in Manhattan and did that for a little bit. And then they hired me after I graduated, which was awesome. The company is Reinstein and Ross, and they make everything by scratch, even the color of their golds. So in their studio, I learned how to, smelt gold and make ingots and draw wire and make sheets. And then I would form that into bezels and rings and all the things. So I really went from learning, the holistic design approach from RISD to really learning how to make jewelry hands-on, from how the solder needs to go, the heat depth of the piece, to how light or hard a hammer needs to hit the metal.
So let me just stop you right there, because I love what you're saying, because so many people get into this space as just like a hobby or like, hey, I love jewelry, so I'm going to, kind of do this. But you really know your shit. And that makes it so much more authentic and interesting.
Yes. Yeah. And sometimes frustrating because, when I'm trying to make something and I'm trying to explain it to somebody, you don't fully understand. And so, yeah, that can be exciting to see the light switch off in somebody's head, or on rather. But
you're working in New York, you're young,
okay.
you're learning all of this stuff from the ground up, and
Mm-hmm.
kind of take us to where you went next.
Okay, so I was at Reinstein Ross as their professional goldsmith, working on one-of-a-kind pieces. I mean, these pieces were, I mean, so extravagant. I got to hand set a 10-carat diamond.
Wow.
Which was scary and amazing.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And just, I mean, it's been decades since I did that, but just looking back at that now, or thinking back at that now, I mean, that is amazing that I can do that my hands can manipulate something to do that. But there came a time when I really got that itch back. I wanted to do my own thing. So at night, I would go and work in my studio in Brooklyn and started to create what was the first rendition of Wild Maid. And at the time, it was just my name, Gretchen Julius. But it was still based on the same designs, which I can go into in a little bit. But at night, I would work on these pieces in my own studio with my own bench. And I started to wear them around, and I started to take them to various locations in Manhattan, different stores and friends that I knew. And just slowly over time, it started to gain traction. I then got into Barney's, and I got a lot of press during that time. I was really big in Japan. They loved the first rendition of the animals.
That's
but
cool.
At the time, the gold market started to go up, and there was different business aspects that were happening. And I was just fresh out of college, and I decided that I needed a little bit more education under my belt. So I put it aside, and I went to Liz Claiborne, and I knocked on their door. I was like, "Hello, Liz Claiborne," and I spoke to the design director of the time for Liz Claiborne. I mean, for Monet Jewelry, and had an interview, and they hired me on as one of their designers. So that was my jump to fashion jewelry. And I do have this drive in me to learn. Love to educate myself and to put myself out there. So I didn't know anything about fashion jewelry. I didn't know anything about the fashion industry in that sense, and where things were made or how they were made, or, there's things called technicals and specs and merchandising and all these new words that I had to jump into. And I loved it, and I worked really hard. And soon, a year later, I was recruited to move on to Ralph Lauren in Manhattan. They were under the brand Cara Lee. They owned the licensing, but we would meet with Ralph Lauren's team weekly and sit with them and start designing their collections for their various needs. And that was exciting in itself, to sort of learn how Ralph Lauren, such a big fashion corporation, went about their way of designing. And some of it was really neat, how they focused in on color or location or textures. But then there was the other side of how it had to be in a certain SKU count. So just, again, juggling the design aspect to the business aspect, and really realizing that the two have to go together in order to jump bigger into positions within the fashion jewelry industry, or even into my own jewelry business. So I just started to learn all these things. And then shortly after Ralph Lauren, I was recruited out to Santa Fe, New Mexico, to be the design director for a company called Peyote Bird, doing the collections for Coldwater Creek at the time.
Yeah.
And so that required a lot of travel overseas. So I've traveled really all over the world, China, Thailand, everywhere, to source and to get things made. And I've made some amazing friendships and some amazing partners. I think, or I know that, working overseas can get a lot of a bad rap. But when you're in it and you're experiencing it with them, it isn't all a bad rap. For sure, that exists. But in the world that I was, it was really amazing and educational to meet these people and to see the hands-on work that they're doing and the ethical work that they're doing, and just formulate these really great partnerships that I still use today for Wild Made.
Wow. Yeah.
But then after, I keep going because I've moved along a lot in my career. But after that, I was then recruited out to Dallas, Texas, which was my last position, to be the design director for a direct sales company called Premier Designs. And I led their design team there. And that entailed just more so of, well, they really brought me on to update their design department. So looking at the collections and really tailoring back the collections to exactly what their needs were and what their customers were liking. So working on, 4 deliveries a year of their assortments, and, what were the top sellers and how can we reignite or redesign these top sellers to help make their clientele successful. Because the direct sales, how that works, if you're not familiar, it's people that go home to home and sell their goods, kind of like a Tupperware type of thing, or I'm forgetting the other name of the brand, but essentially, really looking at all those numbers and all those factors, and again, using the business brain and the creative brain and bringing them together in order for the business to thrive. And that was exciting. I had to do a lot of presentations to those clienteles to really teach them about the assortments and what they were about. Why were we doing this? What are the trends? Giving them that verbiage that they can use at their home shows in order for them to sell the product. And so after that, COVID came and Triplets came. And that was the time that we decided to move back to the Midwest, to be here closer to family. And then I've taken quite a break from that just to focus on the family and be here and get our roots settled back in. This is where I grew up. And now it's my turn again to pick back up in a way that's meaningful to me, slow. I have to keep reminding myself to go slow, but to really, reignite this, what is now called Wild Made.
So there it is. Boom. This is the brand we're talking about, Wild Made.
Yes.
So and maybe we can have some videos running too, but of just like the examples. But yeah, tell us about the brand.
Yeah, so the brand is really, I've started it up. My purpose is to have a creative outlet for me while I am a mother. So first and foremost, my main job is a mother, and I have to make boundaries for that and time for that. But this is my opportunity on the sidelines to have that creative outlet and that business outlet that I so desire.
I think from my perspective, being having something working, being a working mom made me a better mom. I worked full time when my kids were young, but honestly, I think that made me a better mom. And, so I do think that it's important for moms or anybody to have like a really important creative outlet for them. But I'm excited about, just what you guys are doing with the assortment and the animals, and, tell us about sort of the ethos of the brand.
Yeah, for sure. So just as a reminder, the brand is still super new. So I'm still really in the depths of trying to figure out and navigate all the things, getting set up on different platforms and what that entails.
Right.
I mean, there's API addresses, and there's, I talked a little bit earlier about, learning these new verbiage and these new things that you have to do. I am in that right now. What is an API address? I don't know, but you have to learn these things. And so, anyways,
you don't have to learn them. You can call us, but yes.
Yes, I think I might need to call you, Brandy, because I'm a little bit in over my head. So I want to say that, it brings me pleasure to be a mother and have a business at the moment. I'm not feeling that just because it's a lot.
Yeah.
There's these things that I don't have the bandwidth to retain, because I am so in the throes of mothering at the moment. And they were sick, and, with school being closed, and there's only so many hours within the day.
Right.
But let me get back to a little bit of what Wild Made is truly about, because um, I'm not making jewelry like I did in the very beginning to just make jewelry. So I'm making jewelry because I really want to focus in on growth for anybody. That could be a mother, a child, anybody, a man, whatever.
But it's like animals. It's like
Yeah. So
animals, right?
so it's really for people that are focused on growing themselves and really tapping into, what brings them joy and what brings them what they've been through. So Wild Made means, going back to who we were when we were born, like when we were wild, before we've had all of the different nuggets of things sort of given to us that we then take on. And then as we grow older and we experience different experiences throughout life, some of those nuggets didn't work for us or they don't work for us anymore, or they never did. And you're shifting and trying to think through all of that. So it's really going back and thinking about your true self as your wild made self. So each one of these animals in the wild have characteristics. So for example, the giraffe, which is one that I'm really keyed into at the moment, the giraffe has the long neck. They can see holistically, they can see everything, and they're very calm and wise.
I just want to ask a couple questions about the collection.
Okay.
So tell me about like the materials, materials, like, let's talk about the fun stuff. Like, why the materials? What metals are you using? Like, tell us.
So right now I'm doing fashion jewelry, but it's fine fashion jewelry. So because I have so much experience within the industry, I am able to work with key customers overseas. So I've really made sort of its own unique plating. It's super, super thick plating over brass.
Cool.
Because what I wanted to do for this collection, instead of making it fine jewelry, I wanted to make it accessible price points.
Right.
So using brass, and everything is handmade over there. And then we make the molds so then it could go into production. Brass, cubic zirconia stones, brass chains, everything right now is mainly metal. I'm really, really inspired by textures. So textures from raffia, is that what it's called? When you take like raffia chairs, raffia rug.
Yeah. I don't know the right way to pronounce it.
Yeah, I think it's
but I know what you're talking about.
Just everything, like a braid that you see, when I'm on nature and a branch is, kind of braided itself around it. Like that brings me such inspiration and joy. But like if you can see hammered textures on the surfaces of things. So everything is textured, everything is touched.
I love these. I'm gonna get these.
Yeah, the cheetah is really exciting. The cheetah, is quick and fast. So that translates to somebody who, is really driven and really just goes for it.
Well, on the site, you have great explanations for how each animal is representative of almost like a personality type. And I thought that was a really cool way to help you zero in on a connection to it, because that's really what you were telling us you want people when they're wearing it to feel like it's representative of themselves. And by having those explanations on your website, you allow them to really understand more about the piece. It's not just it looks cool, but it also has a personal meaning to me. I think that's I love that. I love having a connection to something I have, whether it's a fashion piece or, a piece of art or whatever. I like to have a connection to these.
My first company was called Cheetah Interactive.
Was it? That's amazing. I love that.
Cheetah is your energy, I feel like. Yeah, I like the lion necklace. I think the lion necklace is super
I would agree. But yeah, it's definitely a way, to honor your story and really embrace that beauty, that wild beauty from within,
Right.
and
Yeah.
wear
So
that as your token. So as you're going through your day, and you might have a great day, you might have a bad day, but it's always with you. Like I have my giraffe earrings on now, so when I'm going through that rough experience of trying to get on Instagram, I'm just I'm rubbing on my earrings, like, oh, right, rise above, see above,
right.
rise above the noise. So it's
Exactly.
really these tokens that are supposed to be with you and resonate with you and remind you of where you're going and where you
I
want to
love
be.
that. I love that.
Mhm.
That's exactly what animals do for us. Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Gretchen. We appreciate your time. I'm so excited. And where can people find your collection?
Right now, you can find it at Meg's shop in downtown Perrysburg, and you can also go to my website at shopwildmade.com.
Cool. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. We really
Thank you
appreciate
guys.
it.
It's been great. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Gretchen.
Support for Garage Branders is provided by Tandem Tide, a performance marketing and omnichannel commerce firm, helping brands thrive in today's digital marketplace. For more information, visit them at tandemtide.com.